Mr. Imlay, thank you so much for joining us. And I think most people have, probably a pretty good idea of what the public defender's role is in the legal system. But just tell me, what does the PD's office do? Who do you represent?
Well, each year we handle about 25,000 cases. And so we have a huge caseload, but we handle everything from, we have a juvenile division. And so we handle kids that are 10 years old up to capital murder cases and everything in between. And so we have multiple offices that handle a variety of cases.
How many attorneys, how many staff, how many clients do you have a year?
Well, like I said, we have about 25,000 cases that we handle each year. We have 120 attorneys and a staff of about 210, which includes investigators and social workers, mitigation specialists, as well as legal secretaries, paralegals, everything.
Obviously, I think any PD's office across the country, probably around the world, getting the indigents access to your office is one of your biggest goals. How do you accomplish that?
Well, we're appointed cases by the judges, but one of the things that we've started doing, one of the things that was important to me as the public defender was to get out into the community that we serve. And so we've been doing a lot of outreach. We go to places like FIT, Foundation for Independent Tomorrow. We use some of the different social services that are out there, nonprofit organizations that serve the indigent community. We go to their facilities. We invite them to events that we hold, just so that they can come out, they can provide services to our clients, because they need things like housing, they need job opportunities, things like that. And so we'd like to partner with a lot of the outside organizations to come and help with our clients.
I think if you talk to anybody in the justice system or law enforcement, whether it's a social worker, an officer, an attorney, a prosecutor, a defender, mental illness obviously is a common thread amongst many of the people in the system.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we face is how do you represent, how do you handle a client that has mental health issues? And so we have a variety of specialty courts, mental health court, civil commitment court. These are places that our attorneys represent the indigent in Las Vegas. But just finding services for them is a huge battle that we face. In the juvenile division, there's also a specialty court that we go to that also represents kids that have autism, and just a variety of mental health issues that we have to address. Because if not, it just creates a revolving door. They're coming in, they're going, come into jail, they'll be there for a couple days, because most of the offenses that they commit are related to the mental health issue that they have. And so trying to provide services to them is really one of the biggest challenges that we have, including in Las Vegas.
And what about diversion programs? I know the Harbor has been a very successful one, just as an example, as far as juvenile justice, but there's many others there for adults and veterans or in different things. Talk a little bit about diversion programs.
Well, as you mentioned, the Harbor has been a tremendous success in the juvenile system. It allows kids to access resources before they're even charged with a petition or before they even have to go to court. It allows them to receive those services, so hopefully they never end up in the justice system at all. We also have some of those services in the adult system. You mentioned Veterans Court for those that served in the military. We have Veterans Court. Some of the other specialty courts, Drug Court, Serious Offender Program, Moderate Offender Program for those that have alcohol-related charges. And we're trying to increase diversion opportunities. And so right now one of the things that we are working on is a pre-complaint diversion program, because if we can keep them out of the system to start and provide them with services, the chances of them coming back into the system is reduced dramatically. Especially when you're talking about the kids. Studies have shown that if you just leave them alone, that chances are they're going to be just fine. I think about myself and a lot of the other people that I talk to. Some of the things that we did as kids, weren't the smartest things, but we turned out okay without going into the system. And adults, if they receive some of those services, whether it's substance abuse counseling, whether it's mental health counseling, impulse control counseling, if they can receive some of those services, it will keep them out of the system.
And I know you deploy in a number of teams, such as juvenile court, homicide, sexual assault. How does this team effort help you tackle the problem from your end of things?
Well, one of the hardest things is to obtain, a specialty. And so what we have is the attorneys that are on the homicide team, the attorneys that are on the sex assault team or the DUI team, the mental health court team. They've become specialists in those areas. They're some of they receive additional training that our office provides and that we look for on the outside as well, so that they can receive specialized training that helps them handle the type of cases that they handle. So they're receiving some of the best representation regardless of resources. They're receiving some of the best representation in Las Vegas.
I know before you became the top public defender, you were on the juvenile team and appeared on a number of committees, including this one, the Juvenile Justice Oversight Commission, convened by Governor Sandoval. How did your work on that committee help you and help the office?
Well, it's looking at risk assessment tools. It's looking at needs assessment tools. What it's trying to do is provide the services that the kids need as early as possible, because you receive those services early and they're going to stay out of the system. And so it promoted those avenues, and we're trying to do similar things in the adult system. Some of the committees that I'm on, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee is looking at needs assessment, risk assessment tools to try to fashion resources that directly applies to that individual. More of a holistic approach so that they can receive the services that will help them not come back into the system. Because if we just put them in jail for 30 days, something like that, it's not going to address the underlying problem. If we can address the underlying problem that brought them there in the first place, chances are we're not going to see them again.
What's been the biggest changes that you've seen personally in your office in the tenure you've been there?
One of the things that we've been trying to do a variety of things. One is, as I mentioned, the community outreach. And so in May we had a bench warrant quashing event. It's the first time that our office sponsored a bench warrant quashing event, and it was for all residents of Clark County. And so we had well over 1,000 people show up. We were able to quash over 3,000 bench warrants. That one day we had about 75 volunteers, most from my office, but from other organizations as well. We've been trying to work closely with Boyd Law School, and so we had some law students come out. As I mentioned, we work with a lot of the groups out in the community that provide resources and assistance to the indigent. And so we had about 13 social organizations that came, set up their booths to provide information, direction for those clients as well. We just had the first ever voter registration. The legislation passed this past session that allowed for someone that has a prior felony conviction to register to vote. And so our office sponsored the very first one in Nevada. And so we've also been trying to provide more opportunities for training. We've expanded our training program for the newer attorneys within our office, and also additional resources for the investigators and social workers, so that we can represent our clients to the very best of our abilities.
And what about the future? What do you plan? How can you take the office even further and serve the community even in a higher level?
Well, I think some of the things that we're doing now, we're reaching out to some other organizations to address things, criminal justice reform. We're looking at bail reform, detention reform, and we're doing that with outside organizations that are helping us as well. We're also doing that through litigation, both federally as well as within the state. We're trying to address that as well through legislation. And so we're working with different groups to try to bring that about. We're also trying to create a more holistic approach for our clients so that they can, again, receive the services that they need to address the underlying issue. And we're doing that by reaching out to the community, providing education, providing opportunities so that people know what our office actually does. And so we've done a lot of presentations to different groups and different organizations. We've been going to high schools and legal leadership programs. As I mentioned, Boyd, we're working closely with Boyd to try to get some of their students involved through internships, externships. We have interns and externs coming from throughout the country, interning in our office for a semester. They're providing valuable help to us, but it's also an opportunity for them to learn about the system, learn about our office. And so we're trying to continue to provide educational opportunities so that the training for our attorneys from when they first come into the office through those first 3 years, they're in a training program so that they know how to best represent clients and so that they're prepared to handle any type of case that comes. And trying to provide resources for the investigators again and the social workers so that they can assist our clients outside of the courtroom.
All right, we sure appreciate you spending time with us and
My pleasure.
telling us what you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.